You all are great examples of tenacious work, and something that I find in common in all the stories is that you have been able to change people's mind, each of you in a different way. So we have been talking today of how can we do better, how can we be more conscious, but we are also talking to the converted here. So I would like to hear from you, what would be the key to change people's mind and to take them into real actions, not only from the inspirational perspective, or as we have been doing today, which is very important. This is the key of activism also. But I would like to hear from you. What's the key to change people's mind?
We're going this way? I guess I can start because I have a thought.
Why not?
I would say that you are right. This is hopefully the choir, but I think the power in the choir is in our language. And so I think each of you has a voice, and going out there and making intentional choices about who you invite, who you lift up. And when you talk to somebody who maybe isn't educated, taking the time to remind them that like ethnic food isn't just like shouldn't be cheap, for example, but like challenging those notions of what's the talent that goes into that, how is that valued. I mean, I think that's always been a really important part of our work at La Cocina. We just released a cookbook in June, but that cookbook is part of our initiative to specifically lift up entrepreneurs and amplify voices that weren't being amplified otherwhere. So there's a way to intentionally use your language to start to shift conversations and open people's minds. And like the best thing about that is you're talking about food, which everybody loves. So if you hear some reticence in the food, you can, in the language, you can always put the food in their mouth, and that always helps.
I think it's, you can show not just about your project, but people need that information. People need the education. People need to understand. I work with these people every day, and some of them, they don't know what is like tasting menu. They don't give a shit, They don't care. And so it's important to put them understand what is food, what is good food. Good food doesn't have to be luxury. It have to be for all. And I think we have to have time. We never have time. We are always in a hurry. We don't have time to hear. We don't have time for people anymore. And I think these people who are working, and people you guys work and Jock, they want to say something. They want us to hear them. They want to understand. They want information. So we have to give information. It's not about that, I want in my kitchen, I want that products, I want this, I want in that size, I want that. And what these people want. So I think we have to change a little bit and understand and hear these people again.
And do not stay only with opinions, but give them information.
Yes.
I agree, and I think even beyond that, our most successful projects, including my restaurant, is the result of having a one-on-one conversation and giving them the opportunity to be as good as anyone else. Like it shouldn't be a conversation about them and us, or like it's ridiculous that we're even here talking about this, frankly. And shit like this drives me to tears when I think about it, because it's like, if I look at this, some of the we've got lots of projects for the Rana Foundation. They're all fantastic. We don't have time to talk about them. But if I were to cherry pick the most successful of those projects, those are the projects that the Indigenous people were not treated like a charity, where I had a one-on-one conversation with them and said, you are just as capable as any person in the world of running this business and making it profitable. I'm going to give you the tools to do that, and you're going to pay me back. And those are the most successful projects. Why? Because I'm not treating them like some fucking charity case. Like, women aren't a charity case. Colored people aren't a charity case. It's not a, they when they're given opportunity to stand up and fight, fuck, they fight. And, when I said including my own restaurant, I mean that. We have 70% of my staff are women, you know, and there's no way my restaurant could run with blokes. They don't have the tenacity. They don't have the, you know, the ability to handle customers in a way guys do. I certainly don't have the patience to deal with customers at all. But more importantly, our staff culture is all the better for being led by women. You know, no question. And the Indigenous people that are our employees, of which there are again, countless, for us, that brings around a whole new environment and a whole new conversation where somebody might come from us from, you know, the back lot of Western Australia who have had no contact with an Indigenous person. They've got some preconceptions of what an Indigenous person is. They're always drunk or on drugs or whatever. And all of a sudden they come into our environment where an Indigenous person is just as important as they are. And, you know, for better or for worse, that person will either flourish in that environment or we'll spit them out and we'll chew them up and spit them out because, you know, that's the way forward. So you're asking what's the way forward and what's the future? The way forward and the way future is identifying the truth, really, and that's all we need to talk about, you know?
I want to take the chance to talk about gender also. And precisely because we are not all women here, which is what we are used to, unfortunately, to only listen to women talking about why we deserve a more diverse sector, right? And I would like to hear you all tell me from a personal perspective, what do you think gastronomy can do to change into a more diverse context? And it's good that we have different scales and levels here, different kind of ways to understand gastronomy, from fine dining, from a totally different approach of food. So share ideas, experiences of how can we get to real changes in terms of gender, because what you were mentioning is still an actual fact. When we go to medias, when we go to conferences, the face of gastronomy is not as diverse as it should.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it starts inside the kitchens, right? I mean, we work in an industry that bears the name hospitality, but it's vastly inhospitable to many of us, many times. I worked in kitchens from the time I was 15, and 6 years ago, I left the kitchen because I didn't want to work in that environment anymore. And instead, I wanted to have a hand in shaping the industry and building a better one. And I've decided to do that with La Cocina. And I see it every day. I see women leading differently because we are a product of the life we have lived. And we bring that into the spaces that we inhabit. And so when you've been a mother, when you've been an immigrant, when you've been divorced, when you've been mistreated, you have a different approach to leading. And I think the way to change our industry is to ensure that more folks, all different kinds of folks, not just women, white women, brown women, trans women, you name it, have a chance to lead from a place of compassion, from a place of care, and from a place of knowledge, which we have so much of.
Yeah.
Nice. I couldn't agree with you more. And for us, a big part of that is around the environment that as an employer, at least, the environment that we create at work and your tolerance levels for shit, right? You know, whether it's casual racism or whether it's snidey remarks or even a look, you know, across the kitchen. It all matters and it all counts. And so, you know, it really is, for me, it's an environmental situation in the workplace.
It's funny because I inside the kitchen and outside the kitchen, the project. So 72% of the girls, of the women, they are almost like 60 plus. They are women who work in the urban gardens. And they are then like, I have this one, Nilda, and it's so fun because she was from North Brazil, and then she moved. Her kids bring her back because she was by herself. And so she was really depressive. She walked every day 10 kilometers to get in the urban garden every day, really happy with her car. And then she take the food she wants because she lives by herself, but she take a lot of food, and then she stop and distribute the food for neighbors and talk. And I think the perspective these ladies have from the life, they are always happy. Always they are smiling. Sometimes I come to the garden and a lot of problems, and then I arrive there. I know they have much more problems than I. And then when I see hello, Manu, smile, I'm like, yeah, shit, I'm back, I'm fine again. And in the restaurant, of course, we are more women, but not because I choose, because they are there. 50% of the staff of the restaurant, like my pastry chef, my sous chef, are in the restaurant since I opened. Manu is going to be 8 years. They are there, like the administration manager. The two girls who work in the garden, they are picking up stuffs. They are working there since we opened, and they are girls. I don't know what, but they don't fight inside of it. It's too much girls, but we are all friends, and it's really nice how I see changing. How I see the future. We are getting more space and getting more voice, and that's really important.
Just one note. I think in terms of it's the question of, is it getting better, right? We don't have a huge high turnover of staff, but certainly when we have people that come and cook with us, or they have, or we go and cook somewhere else, and we always take a chef and a front of house member of staff with us. And the front of house member of staff, Greta, who's actually the general manager. My CEO is a woman. My general manager is a woman. But when they come in, when people come into our environment, they're in a state of shock. And so if you were to ask me honestly, are things getting any better? Right now, I don't think so. Like, people come in our environment and they're like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, there's this pint-sized woman who is ferocious doing a briefing, and, her next three people in her line are all ferocious women as well, But the reaction that I see from a male chef coming inbound is actually repulsive, to the point where, and like I said before, they either get with the program or the environment literally chews them up and spits them out, and quite rightly.
Joanna, the last comment, so we can close with the idea of how diversity...
Gin and tonics.
Gin and tonics. I know, I'm thinking about a gin and tonic.
Of this sustainability.
Yeah, I just agree with everyone and says, I think watching the woman at La Cocina, now being I've been at La Cocina for 6.5 years. I was a computer science major. I ran in male circles for a long time, and I think prided myself on being able to kick ass in corporate America. This is not what I thought I was going to say. But I think that what it means is not just putting women in leadership positions, but being ready to change with it, instead of having to continue to force all of ourselves to shove ourselves into a patriarchal structure that hasn't really served anyone. I mean, to me, when I think about the way that why we need climate change, it's because we are replicating colonial structures that didn't believe in investing and living sustainably, but believed in taking and only benefiting a small set of people. And if we keep replicating those structures in our political systems and the way we run our kitchens and the way we run our companies, it doesn't fucking matter who's in power. We're going to keep replicating those structures. So we need to be ready. That's why I really believe it's you got to mimic the beautiful, vibrant garden, the ranch, the forest. You want to have different voices and also be ready for those voices to lead us to a different place. To make tangible what Emiliana is saying, I think about Beanie, I think about Reem, that team that I showed you, that team's been with her since 2014. Beanie's right-hand woman has been there for 5 years, when Beanie was a 3-person shop to a 20-person shop. She's been taking the train from Richmond, California, which is more than an hour away on a BART, you don't think there's like a half a dozen other restaurants that would take that skill? There's a reason she's been coming back to that kitchen that was once the La Cocina kitchen, is still working with Beanie. You know, there's ways forward, I think, if we can all be open to just starting to think differently.
Well, thank you. I think it was amazing. No, we can all agree that it was a great debate.